comes to age. Now, it looks like most of us here have a little bit of experience behind us. And so it never hurts for a little bit of a review. But the major, in my opinion, one of the major components to success in this business is confidence. And I've been doing this for almost as long as Mark, not quite as long. I've only been doing it for 43 years, so he's been doing it for what, 20 years longer than me, Mark, something like that.
No, 49. I'm not that old, dude.
I think I've
So,
been doing it 27 years. That's all right. We're all looking good,
all
feeling
right,
good. Yeah.
looking good and feeling good. Um, but when I was a little bit younger and had better knees, I used to play a lot of sports, and one of the sports I loved to play in was basketball. And so I played on a couple of city tournaments and city leagues and stuff like that. And one of my teammates was a neighbor of mine. He lived like right around the block. And every morning, me and Kenny would wake up and we'd go to there was a gym right behind my house. Um, Went out my back gate into a parking lot, crossed the parking lot into this gym, and we would play one on one every single morning to just kind of get a workout before we both went to work. He
That's
worked for
awesome.
UPS. And so um, when we were playing in our city league, I was probably the least scoring guy on the team. Great at defense, but I just didn't have a big scoring thing. And so one day, Kenny and I were playing in the gym, and he's like, Bruce, why don't you just take more shots when we're on the team? I said, because you and the other guys, some of the other guys, they're just better shots than I am. And it's Bruce, you're a good shot. He says, we play one on one, you win half the time and I win half the time. So you just never take the shot. And I'm like, because I have more confidence in you than I have in myself. And then so uh, Kenny challenged me rather than passing the ball off to just take the shot more often. And the very first game that I did that, I scored double digits um, for basketball. I never did. It was always single digits because I was always giving the ball to somebody else. But it gave me the confidence after that one game, I could take the shot.
Right
I
on.
could score just as much as these other guys were scoring. I'd been playing basketball for a long time. I was about 30 years old when I was doing this. But so what I want to do is kind of review some of the things that make us really good at this business. And one of the things that makes us very, very good is how we handle objections, how we get through an objection, how we get to the other side of that objection to have success. Because if we let those challenges stop us, we we're we're not going to take the shot we need to take, and we're not going to score. So Mark had sent out a to everyone some of the rote responses to objections, and I would say this. I would say that we should memorize every single objection possible, or every single response possible. When I was young and dumb and didn't know a thing about this business and almost got fired for working in this business, um, I got a book that had tons of objections in it. And what I did is I took all of those objections, I put them on a flashcard, and then the response on the other side. So while I was driving around during the day, I was flashing myself. Well, I was doing the flashcards all day. I wasn't flashing myself, okay. But anyway, I was, I was reading the responses and memorizing them, so that when I got into an appointment, it did not matter what a client said, how they were approaching my presentation. I had the response that would satisfy their objection and move on and close the deal. And with me, when I first started this business, guys, I almost got fired because my closing ratio was less than 10%. And my boss almost fired me. And he just told me I wasn't cut out for this business, go find something else. And I asked him to give me another 30 days before he fired me. And I just became an expert at these objections. And I went from a 10% closing ratio to over a 90% closing ratio. And a big part of it was being able to handle objections fluidly, instantly, without hesitation. And so, um, before we get into this, Mark, we'll come back to the screen. So just exit this for a minute. I got a couple things before we get into this. I'm going to say this. One of the easiest way to handle objections is to never have to handle an objection. And so it all starts when you first make that contact with the client and you build up such a rapport that they have so much trust in you that you basically can guide them to do whatever you recommend for them to do. I've seen Eugene do this. Eugene is a master at rapport. And I've seen him take a stone cold client that he just met in a subway, and this is a true life event. We were in a subway one day waiting for sandwiches. He turns around and starts talking to this lady and her daughter behind us. And by the end of it, it was like they had known Eugene their whole lives and willing to probably give him anything he wanted. So I'm not kidding you. I mean,
I love it.
that Eugene and I would be walking into a restaurant and the waitress would set us at the back of the restaurant. But by the time we got to the back booth, Eugene knew everybody else that was in all the other booths by the time we got back there because he was introducing himself. So that's one key is how you start off building a rapport to where these people trust you. And I have a belief in selling. And belief in selling is this, that all you need is two things to make a sale. If you've got these two things, you will always make the sale. One thing is trust, and the other thing is credibility. And so those two things combine, because someone trusts you and then they believe you can do the job for them, you've got to sell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if you're able to handle objections fluidly, it brings a high level of credibility to the table. Trust, a lot of times, is best achieved because you're either able to build rapport with that person, but the very best way to have trust with a client is if somebody introduced you to that client that you already had trust with. And they're lending their trust to that next person through a referral, or better yet, through an introduction. And so whenever I get a referral, I always try to move past the referral and get an introduction. Okay. And I'll show you guys how I do that as well if we have time at the end of this call. But I'm just trying to give you a 30,000-foot view as to some of the components prior to handling objections that I think help us so that either we have fewer objections or they're so much easier to get through. Okay. So Mark, why don't we go ahead and put that on the screen, and I'll let you kind of review this with the guys. And ladies and gentlemen, when I say guys, it's non-generic. It's just, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I'm from the South, and it's just one of the things that we use everybody, guys, so.
Right.
All right. So don't be offended. But if I said, hey, girls, I think that some guys would be offended.
Really. So I'm not going to read each one of these. You guys can read all of these, but I will tell you that what I do with this and what I am doing with this is you all know that I'm building an AI bot, and that AI bot is going to be making outbound calls, and the goal is to get past the gatekeeper. And when I tell you this is something that, you can use, I think, when, you're approaching people, whether it be on the phone or you're in person. My goal is when we're teaching this bot to speak, it is to meet objections. And so I gave the team that's building the bot every one of the things that you have in front of you now, because the bot needs to learn to speak like a human. And the goal is to get over objections. And the first objection that I think we're probably going to meet with the bot is going to, from the gatekeeper perspective, is going to be, what is this about? And the bot will turn it around, just like you will, and just ask to have a conversation with the decision maker, the benefit HR person, or whatever the case may be, and try and keep the conversation or the sentence or the rebuttal very short. And agree. It's always about agreeing. Okay, so like the bot will say, and you guys can say, is when you meet an objection, you can say, I certainly understand what you're saying, and then you want to circle back to, but if I can have a few seconds. One of the things that I've taught the bot to do, especially on an opening phone call, is to ask for permission. I like to ask for permission. And the permission that I ask for is, may I just have 27 seconds to explain to you why I'm calling? The 27 number throws people off. I didn't ask for 30 seconds. I didn't ask for a minute. They're used to that. And their brain goes, 27 seconds. What the world is this guy talking about? And the fact that I asked for permission to, explain why I'm calling, I have yet to be told no. And I expect the bot will have the same success ratio. Once you get to that point, and I was on a call with one guy where I did ask for 27 seconds, and he says, you're at 23 seconds. And I said, well, that means I have 4 seconds left over because I'm done. And so we just started joking with one another. It became kind of friendly. And if you can get to that point where, you can get them to chuckle, you can get them to laugh, it makes it a lot easier. It becomes a friendly conversation then. So again, I'm not going to go through every one of these things that are here, but I suggest that you study these, get them down, so that whenever you're hit with something, you can immediately respond. Okay. Like here, I've got this one up already that says, and you're going to run into this. We already have benefits. Well, the bot's going to respond. That's great to hear. Again, being positive. Most of my clients do well. Our goal isn't to replace anything that you currently have, but instead to show you a way to enhance your current benefit package. And we're changing that is now a good time. The bot will actually say, we have available either Tuesday or Thursday at 10 or 2 o'clock for our agent to give you a call and have that conversation. Which one of those would be better for you? I don't like to ask, is now a good time? Because that's a closed-ended question. They're going to say either yes or no. I don't want them to say that. I want them to pick either a Monday, or not a Monday, a Tuesday or a Thursday, and at a particular time. I'm giving them an option. I'm not giving them the option of yes or no. I'm giving them the option of Tuesday or Thursday at 2 or 10 o'clock, whatever the case may be. So just keep that in mind, that when you ask certain questions, if you give them the opportunity to say no, they're going to say no. So I would not do that. So again, read through this. It's got a lot of really great things. I thought at first it was in mod. Maybe it is, but I just can't go back and find it. So I just put it up there for you, and I sent it to you in an email, so that you could print it off. What, Rhonda?
So,
I said I appreciate it. Thank you.
Not a problem at all.
let me add to a couple of things that you just said, Mark, if it's okay. So I like the 27-second thing. It reminds me of when I was setting appointments as an agent initially, I would never set appointments on the half hour or the hour. I would say, hey, I've got time available at 10:28, or I could see you at 11:03, which works better for you? And the same thing, they're saying, what do you mean 11:03? I'm like, 3 minutes after 11, would that work for you? And it kind of, because it's different and it's not ordinary, it does give them a moment to stop and think. And you're different. You're not like all of those other people that have called them. So when you think out of the box just a little bit, yeah, I think it's more appealing to people. So I like the 27-second thing. I will give you a statistic about now appointments versus later appointments. If you can talk to them now, you have twice the chance, double the opportunity of having a meeting than if you postpone it to later. So if you want to give them an option rather than saying it's now a good time, you say, you know what, we could use a quick minute now to go over this, or we could schedule it for tomorrow or the next day. So you're still giving them an option closed, but and I like to use the phrase, hey, if you have a quick minute now, or we can have a short quick chat. Those kinds of monikers, short, quick, it doesn't seem like you're going to be on the phone with them forever. And then it helps them alleviate preconceived ideas because they're very busy, right? And they can get on with their lives, and they can just take care of this right now, and hopefully they can listen to your spiel, get you off, and never have to talk to you again, and you won't bug them again. So I like it. I can do it now with a quick minute, and it's just, I don't know, that seems to have always worked for me, especially when we were in the COVID era and we could not see people. One of the things that we found out is that we really tried to see people right away, right now, right away, because if we did postpone that meeting down the road, we found that if it was the very next day, we had a very, very high probability of seeing them, but there was still at least a 25% drop off from one day to the next. If we waited till the next day, the drop off was even more, 30 to 50%. If it was further out than that, the drop off was terrible. Which is very interesting because when I first came into this business, I would schedule all my appointments out for at least 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. And I never had more than a 25% drop off, even on those appointments I scheduled way out. But the difference was that all of my appointments, once I got rocking in this business, they were all referrals and introductions. And so that's the other thing. When you set an appointment with someone who has been referred to you, then the likelihood of them sticking to that appointment is much, much greater than a cold appointment that you set, because you don't quite yet have that trusting and credibility
Yeah,
intact yet with that client.
let me circle back on what you're saying, Bruce, to clarify. When I was talking about the bot is different from a human being. You as a human being, I want you to try and, like Bruce said, don't try and book an appointment for the next day or a week later. Try and flip them immediately to talking to you right away. The bot doesn't have that option. The bot is going to do one of two things. It's either going to book the appointment, and I'm going to ask you at some point, all of you, to get into my CRM system so that I can connect your Google Calendar, and it will automatically book appointments for you and give you notifications. So it's different from a human
Right.
being. The bot will also, we're trying to work on live transfer so that depending on the geography, if it's in Rhonda's backyard or if it's in Kathleen's backyard or whatever, I'm trying to make it so that the bot, if the person on the other end, who's benefit manager or the owner of the business, will talk to somebody right now, it will live transfer to your phone. So you need to be aware that you might be getting phone calls. I'll let you know in advance that you might be getting phone calls from the bot that's transferring a call to you of an owner or a principal of a company that wants to speak to you immediately. Okay, so just be aware that this is all. I'm trying to automate all of this so that that's what happens. I'm not here
Right.
to sell. Okay, that's not what I'm doing right now. I want you to sell. So I'm going to pass off all of these leads that come in to you all.
So
Okay. Yeah.
Mark, excuse me, it's Kathleen. So when the bot comes in and says that, they should take a call right away, is that a for sure thing when the bot does that? In other words, they do clarify, I'll talk to you now. I want to talk to someone now. Is that the only reason they would do that?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that you have to tell me when you're available to take calls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you tell me that on a Monday you're not available at all, the bot will never live transfer to you.
Okay.
So you're going to tell me I'm available from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. And if something comes in and the bot has an opportunity to live transfer, then I know you're on call.
Okay.
Okay. And that you'll pick up the phone. That's secondary. Right now, it's going to all be done with calendar booking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just know that I'm not asking you to be at your phone 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Why not?
That's my problem.
Hey guys, we've done this before with another agency where we had an automated calls going out, and the way that, and Mark, I'm just share this with you. What worked before is however many agents wanted to be available for those live transfers, then they went into a queue, and we could actually see in the queue, like if there were 10 agents and the live transfer automation is happening, and then it takes the first person on the top of the queue, and then it will try and make a live transfer to that person. Well, if that person is on the phone and unable to take live transfer, then it automatically goes to the next person down. And so um, it was, the computer was automatically set to where the live transfer is going to get one of those agents that's in queue, because more than likely not all of them are busy all at the same time, but they've all kind of reserved themselves to get these calls coming in. And then you just kind of, it's like a batting order, if you will. You just move up the batting order and then back down the batting order like that, a rotation. And I think that's kind of what Mark is talking about. But if you want to be involved in that when that happens, you just have to be a part of the queue at that time, and they'll load it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, I'm going to be on with Sweden in a little while, finishing up this whole system. But that's the goal, is to get it done. But again, your job is no different than the bots, is to get past any objections that people throw at you. And so we're teaching the bot at the same time, hopefully teaching you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, the thing, this bot thing is really great because we spend a lot of time on the phones these days, right? Because people have caller ID, and a lot of times if you're not in the phone, then you don't even get that person to pick up. Now, I'm gonna give you a little trick. If you guys are calling on leads or you're calling people, whenever you call somebody, you let it ring 2 or 3 times, hang up, and call again. Because today's technology and cell phones are that if you're not on their call contact list, they'll never see it. Like in my contact list, for example, if I haven't listed you as one of my contacts, I will never know you're calling
Right.
until later in the day. When I look at the call list, I'll see who I missed calls from. But my phone doesn't beep, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't ring. But the way that you bypass that is if you call right away 2 times in a row, then it bypasses that and the person will hear the ring and they'll see your number come through. Okay. So that's just a piece of technology.
Oh, it will do that.
Say what?
On the second call, when you hang up and try again right away,
Yep.
it'll bypass it. Okay.
That's right.
It's
Exactly.
a good point.
Yeah. So there's several points in our job where we have to handle objections from people. You know, the first point obviously is setting up the appointment, that first contact. And but in my opinion, most objections are pretty much handled the same way. If you know the quick response to get past that, you move on, right? So we have phone objections, then we have, when we meet with somebody, we have those face-to-face objections, and then when we're about to close the deal, sometimes we have closing objections. So pretty much that's kind of what we go through. And I'm going to just give you a little bit of history here on this. Before we go there, Mark, let me just say a few things first, okay?
Was it out again?
Okay. So the best way, like I said, to handle an objection is to be in a position to where you don't have to handle the objection. You kind of handle it up front. And if you've got a great rapport with that person, now here's the other thing is being observant. When you're talking with somebody and you kind of recognize the kind of person they are, especially if you're in their office or you're in their home, you can see more. So the more you see, the better, the more ammunition you have to counter objections or handle objections. And usually the very best way to handle objections is to handle it from that client's point of view or from their point of interest or from what is important to them. Now, I know we can give you guys bunches of scripts, you know, that the industry has produced and they're great and they're fine. But I would say try and put that stuff in your own words. And I'll give you one of the best way to handle objections is learn how to read people. And, you know, like I'll use Eugene, like, because he and I have been out in the field so many times with people. He is an expert at reading people and gets to exactly what they're interested in. I was on an appointment in San Francisco one day with a pretty new agent. I would say brand new. He was kind of a new agent. And, you know, new agents, we teach them scripts, right? We teach them a presentation and we teach them like a few rote how to handle objections. And so we get there, and this fellow that we went to go see was a single guy that was still living with his parents, and he was an engineer. Okay. And so we're up there, and we're going to sell him some life insurance. That was the objective. And he was great. We had the appointment. We get up there and we go meet him. And as we're going through this presentation, the agent I'm with, you know, he says, so how much, you know, he says, so would you like a $15,000 policy or a $30,000 policy to cover your final expenses? So he gave him an option close, right? And he says, well, I don't think I need any life insurance because I've got a $50,000 term policy at work, you know? And he says, oh, okay. So he starts to close his laptop. So he figures the presentation's over. This guy has enough life insurance to cover his final expenses because he's got a term policy at work, and he's all set to go, right? And so as he's closing the laptop, I reach over and I lift the laptop back up. I'm saying, hey, can I ask you a question? And he's like, sure. I said, so you go to work every day? He says, yeah. I said, so when you go to work every day, do you wear the same shirt? He says, no. What about the pants? Do you wear the same pants? He says, no. I said, what about shoes? He says, yeah, you know, usually I'll wear, I don't change my shoes, pretty much the same shoes every day. I says, well, you know, your insurance plan is very much like that. And I'm like, your term insurance that you have at work eventually is going to change because the average person changes their job, you know, every 7 years or less. So you're going to, if that was your shirt, you're probably going to take it off someday and you'll need a new shirt. And I said, and then I think this guy also had some of the policy, and he had a term policy. That's right. He had a individual term policy. And I said, that's like the pants that you wear. I said, but what we're trying to tell you is something that you need always and forever. And that's this whole life plan, so that no matter what job you have, no matter you know, where you live or if you get married, you'll have this and your final expenses are taken care of through a whole life policy that will never go away. And those are like the shoes you wear every day to work. And he says, huh, that makes sense, you know? And so he buys. And then I said to him, I said, well, you know, Joe offered you a $15,000 or a $30,000 policy. I said, the reason he did that is because if you were to have a funeral today, and this was several years ago, it would cost you about $15,000 for the burial. I said, but according to the National Association of Funeral Directors, they say that over the next 20 years, the cost of funerals will double. So my only question to you is, do you plan on dying anytime soon or sometime later? And he's like, well, later, I guess. Oh, so what you're saying is it's probably better that you go ahead and buy the $30,000 one because not gonna die anytime soon. And he's, yeah, I'll take the $30,000 one. And so then we're on our way back out, and this agent turns to me, how many times have you given that close? I said, that was the first time. And the first time, because see, I was reading this guy. I was understanding this guy was an engineer. I kind of understood how this guy was thinking based upon how he was answering these preliminary questions. And I didn't say a word until the agent was failing or he had given up. And then I stepped in, and then I saved it because I could read the guy. So we look for these points as we're talking to people. And like Mark was saying, he was talking to this guy and he started having fun with this guy because he could kind of read what kind of personality this guy had and had fun with him. And so
And
that's kind of what I'm telling you.
engineers are always hard to sell. But I wanted to ask you, did anybody ask if that insurance was portable that he had? I mean, would you ask that?
I would, but I didn't at
Yeah.
that point because I had in mind, I wanted him to know that his shirt and pants he was going to change probably sometime, if not often. Let me give you something that you're not going to change. This is going to stay with you. And this is the foundation of everything else. And he bought that. He bought that idea.
But if he said it was portable, how would you counter?
If he said that the insurance was portable,
He had time, the policy he had where he worked, if it was a portable policy that he could take with him, how would you counter that?
well, I would probably go into something else, like if he had it at work, I said, now who who chose to put that insurance plan with you at work? Well, my employer did. Oh, okay. So you're saying that the employer gets to choose what kind of insurances you guys have, right? Right. So let me put you in the driver's seat then. Let me give you a plan to where you're always in the driver's seat and you don't have to rely on what, if any at all, your employer does for you. So that's one of the things I would say in regard to that.
So if it's portable, Kathleen, it normally means that they can convert it, take it with them, but they have to convert it at a very high cost.
Because they're going
And
to
so-
convert it at that age later on.
Right, they would convert, and so it's going to cost them too much money.
Not always, but yeah, I understand.
Yeah, for the most part.
So
All right, Bruce, you're on. What is there another?
no. I
you want me
just want one thing I wanted to cover is all of you guys have been out there. Is there an objection that has stopped you in the past? And let's talk about that particular objection first. What's the hardest objection to overcome?
This
the
is
one when they say I have to go check with my spouse.
That's right. That's a good one.
That one kills me every time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I love Eugene, you got one for that, right? I have to check with my spouse. No, okay,
Gene.
then
That's even better, I
But you
think.
didn't hear that.
okay. So let me kind of do that first of all, okay? One thing that I like to do when they tell me that is I would say, okay, so you have to talk to your spouse before you decide this. So what is your allowable budget that your spouse allows you with? Well, what do you mean? Well, obviously you have to talk to her. So I mean, do you guys know, do you have like $1,000? Like she gives you a $1,000 budget that you can spend without her approval? Or is it $500 before you get her approval? So what is the dollar amount that you need to get her approval with? And then a lot of times, like, what do you mean approval? Well, obviously you need to talk with her before you can make a decision. So I'm just trying to figure out what your approval limit is. And a lot of times I say, well, wait a minute, I make the decision. Oh, so it's a fun conversation after that.
Yeah.
And then if they say, oh no, I just want her to be a part of the conversation, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I can tell that you love your spouse. Um, so why don't we make the best decision possible and then let her know what a wonderful thing you just did for her? Because when you die, guess what? She's going to be able to pay off that mortgage. You know what? If you're disabled, whatever the benefit is, this is how you're going to be able to alleviate the trauma that's going to come into your house because you made a great decision in doing this. Compliment them because you made this. It's like I call it forward forecasting. Because of this great decision you're making today, this is how much better your life will be then.
You're
Because
about,
you're making this great decision today, imagine how your wife is going to think of you tomorrow. So that's forward forecasting. You tell them how life is going to be because of what they're doing right now.
everybody likes to be validated. That's what you're doing, right?
Exactly.
Use the word gift whenever they object to, to give me that objection. Like Bruce said, I will tell people that, so we're going to give your spouse a gift and your family a gift. And you need to tell them the gift that you've given them.
That's good. Yeah. Everybody likes gifts.
Yep, they love it.
Mhm. So does anybody have another response to that? I got to talk to my spouse about it, or another thing. I'll just say this before we get into that. When you first sit down with people, I know if you're doing an enrollment, it's different, but if you're doing an individual appointment, that's different as well. But the thing about if I'm doing a presentation, like an entire presentation, whether you're giving it to a business owner or whether you're giving it to an individual, one of the things I will always ask before I spend my time to do a presentation, I want to know if that is really the decision maker. You've got to find that out. So let me ask you, Mark, are you the one that makes the final decisions in regard to the finances here, or is there someone else that you have to consult to? I mean, and then if not, then we're going to set up a meeting with that other person. And a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, just give me the information. I'll let them know." No, 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 no. That is a wrong way to do it because they are not as good at this as you are. You need to be in front of all of the decision makers so they can make that decision, right?
Yeah.
Going on right now, I will tell you guys that I'm in negotiation. My next door neighbor is in the I told Bruce this. My next door neighbor is he runs a pretty large marijuana grow, and our benefits are perfect for that industry. And I had a short conversation with him when he was here at the house last week, but he's not the decision maker. He has to go to his CFO. He's the CEO or president or whatever he is. I don't know. So I have to set up a meeting with a different person before I go into a presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I'm living it right now.
Okay.
To bypass anybody that really can't say yes. I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Don't waste your time with people that can't say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you just need to practice.
Yeah.
To him, his wife brought me dinner. So
Cute.
Good questions, Kathleen. I'm
Oh.
liking it. Yeah. This is fun. What's another objection you guys feel is a difficult one or you like to get a little better at?
Well, one of the things I'm finding up here in Idaho, which is a very different animal all the way around, is a lot of the people that I've been making contact with are very young people. The very people that really do need protection need to start looking at stuff like that. But they're like they don't really understand yet how much they really need it. And many times they really, really can't afford it or can't afford a lot. It's a special group. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to work with that group. They need it. There's no doubt that they need it. For instance, I went into this pet store and there were two young girls in there, very lovely, very young. They had no insurance at all. They didn't have any medical insurance. And I said, all the more reason you need this. We don't pay your medical bills, but we help you pay your bills. And this is really great. It's very affordable. I'm going to get back to you. I left some information for them to read, but I could tell in their minds that they were thinking, how am I going to be able to afford this? I mean, I'm having trouble now. I can hardly pay my rent. You know, that's the young people up here, a lot of them.
So you're probably talking to them about the accident plan?
Accident and a sickness. Yeah.
Yeah. The
Is
the accident,
the thing about coffee, or what is it that you buy every week that you maybe don't need, but you
Starbucks.
do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That money that they spend on their Starbucks every day could
Yeah.
buy
Yeah.
exactly.
well,
That's-
I will say this is that obviously someone has to be able to afford it, and they have to also feel like they can afford it.
yeah, exactly.
And young people, they have to have a starting point. So that the accident plan is a great starting point
Yes.
because they can get into that at about $15. And the thing that I like to talk to young people about is responsibility. And I
Yeah.
say, the great thing about being an adult is you get to make your own decisions.
Mhm.
But with those decisions come responsibility. And I was just telling a guy a couple of days ago, I said, listen, um, and he was telling me, hey, I'm still on my parents' plan, because he's less than 26 years old. And so I started talking to him about life insurance. And I'm like, um, do you have a girlfriend? Or you plan on getting married? Or what does the future look like? And he's, oh, yeah, I got a girlfriend. I said, so is she temporary or permanent? And he's like, well, we've only been dating for a couple of months. And I'll say, I'm going to tell you what I told my daughters when they started dating. And because you may run into somebody that has a daughter that had a dad like me. And I said, I told my daughters that whenever they found the guy that they really liked, before they liked him too much, and too much means it's too late to back out, right? I like him too much. I said, you need to ask this guy, does he have insurance? And my daughters both said, well, why, Dad? I'm like, because insurance is a sign of responsibility. And if a guy is not willing to have insurance on himself right now, when he has very little responsibility, how is he going to how is he going to think about having responsibility when he has you or has kids or has a family? That's a bad sign. And so both of my daughters, you know, they both dated and married guys that had insurance because they both asked them those questions.
Great.
And so what happens then is you let these young men, especially young men, realize that, I want to be responsible because I want a good future. I want to be that guy. And if you let guys know, hey, what women look for more than your good looks is, are you going to be able to take care of them? Security. And insurance is a sign of a guy that will be able to take care of them. So what kind of guy do you want to be? And now I've had that conversation. I can't tell you how many times with young guys.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. And then I would tell girls the same thing, but I really haven't done it with girls that often. But I say, you want to find a guy that's responsible. As a matter of fact, you want to be responsible, because
Right.
we are in dual income earning households these days. So I can just flip it right on a young lady as well. But the thing about young people that I really found out is they're in it for themselves. What's in it for me? So the best way to get over an objection sometimes is to tell a quick story. And so I'll tell you guys one. Just as a matter of fact, I met with a lady Sunday evening. All right, and she's an old client of mine. I've had her for years. And her daughter, when her daughter became an adult, she bought an accident policy similar to the one we have, $12 a month. That's all it costs. Well, we're in there, and she told me, "Hey, Katricia had an accident 2 weeks ago." I said, "No way." I said, "So did you make your claim yet?" She, "What claim?" She didn't die, because she knows she has life insurance on all the kids, right? I said, "Well, she's got an accident policy," and she she's really. I said, "Go pull your policies out." So she goes back, she pulls all her policies that she's bought from me, and she's bought, I don't know, maybe a dozen policies from me, right, on every grandchildren, all the kids. It's so anyway, she pulls out this accident policy. I said, "So tell me about the car accident." Well, she had a car accident. She had taken ambulance to the hospital. She was admitted. She was there for 2 days. She had a fractured bone. She broke her leg, on and on and on. So I'm reading through the policy. I said, take out a piece of paper. Okay, ambulance ride, $200. Admitted to the hospital, $1,000. A broken bone, $1,000. I mean, we just started adding this stuff up. I said, "Oh, well, it looks like she's going to get a check for $2,500." And she says, "What?" And then Katricia walks into the kitchen where we were at the dining table, and she's like, and I tell her, "Hey, Katricia, you're about to get a pretty nice check." And she says, "Why?" I said, "Because of that limp you have right there." I said, "You were in a car accident and they're going to send you a $2,500 check." And she says, "Really?" And I'm going to tell all my friends about this policy. So young people want to know what's in it for them. So I would just tell them like that little story right there. Just a little accident. This girl's going to get thousands of dollars. Now our policy is actually more rich than that because that's an old policy, you know.
What's
And
the
you
time for filing claims on the accident policies with Combined? How long? I mean, how far out can they go? If they haven't done it for a year, 2 years, and yet they had those issues, will Combined pay if they send it in 2 years later?
Kathleen, I don't know what the time limit is
Okay. I'll,
on
We'll
claims
find it.
for these. I
well,
haven't been here long enough.
we worked with Aflac, for many years, Rhonda and I. And they would let them send them in like forever, and they still paid, which was a
We
good,
can find out.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
so have in your pocket stories.
yeah.
And if you don't have the stories, borrow stories from other people that you've heard. And if you don't have a story, you know what? Be Hollywood, make one up.
Yeah.
Stories sell, guys. I'm just saying,
Oh,
That's true.
you
When
could,
when I was young, I'll tell you what, when I was a really young guy and I was stupid in this business, I had this appointment with this guy and he was old. I shouldn't say he was old because he was about Jim's age, and so I shouldn't say he was old. He was just older than me, okay? And he asked me to go through my entire flip chart. We had flip charts back in the day. We didn't have computers, and we didn't even have calculators, believe it or not. But anyway, I go through my flip chart presentation with him, and he's like, "Sounds like you got that down word for word." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, they made me learn it word for word." And then he goes on to tell me that he used to be in the insurance business. And he tells me, he says, "Son, if you want to sell insurance, you better get some stories that sell."
Testimonies, yeah.
He says, you can't just go in there and say, "Oh, this is going to pay this and this is going to pay that." And he says, you're not going to make it in this business. And I said, "Stories?" He says, "Yeah, let me give you." And he gave me a few stories that he used when he was an insurance agent. Now he was retired, right? And I said, "Do you mind if I use that?" He says, "That's why I gave it to you." He says, "Good luck with that." And I told his stories over and over and over and over again to help me make sales.
Yeah.
Stories sell. I bet Jim's got a few stories.
Oh, I got more stories than you've got time for, believe me. But listen, I just wanted to say I'm very excited to be working with this team. I think there's a lot of talent and a lot of experience on this team. And you guys, I think you're going to be a hit with Combined. It's a wonderful company, wonderful products, and the compensation is second to none. And with Bruce, with Mark, I think that you have some people who have some of the best and the most successful insurance careers that I've seen in my career, my 30-year career or more in the voluntary benefits industry. These guys are great. You're very fortunate to be on their team, and I'm very fortunate to have all of you guys on this team. I'm here to help and support any way I can. But Bruce, great information.
Who are you?
Jim Harbor, Agency Director with Combined,
Okay, nice,
for California, South, Nevada, and Hawaii.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Kathleen.
So the pyramid is like this. Here I
Nice to meet you,
am.
Rhonda.
Here's Bruce. Here's Jim.
Okay,
No, it's flipped. It's the other way. I
No,
support you guys. I'm down here and they're up here.
Nice.
we're right after an hour. Bruce, do we have any more we want to do, or should I just recap this real quick?
Just do a recap because we're almost at that 1 hour moment.
I heard the word responsibility, affordability. We handled objections. We heard about his daughters and dating and the fact that the boys had to come to the table with something, which was a sign of responsibility. Storytelling, make up a story or borrow a story. We've got plenty of them. Be observant and be aware. And we'll all do just fine. And I'll build this thing on the back end and try and make it so you guys can go sell more and not have to worry about prospecting.
Well,
Appreciate
I want to say something about you, Mark. I think you're a fabulous leader and you're really, really supportive, and it really makes a difference for the agent.
100.
Kathleen, you can go cash the check now. I appreciate it.
It's all true. You're a great guy.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. All right, Bruce, are we then done for today? And then we'll head on to next Friday and we'll have another topic, huh?
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna every Friday.
Every
Every Friday.
Friday, we'll put that. I'll make sure I'll send it out to you 3-4 times so that I make sure you get it either in text form or in email form and reminders as well.
Great.
All right, so you all have a good Thanksgiving.
You
And
too.
we'll talk to you then next week after we've all eaten too much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Bruce.
Great-
Nice to
great
meet
meeting,
Rhonda
Great
and
meeting.
Kathleen.
Rhonda, I'll call you in just a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.